in terms of what we've covered so far is a mapping where augmented reality apps such as Chalk and Expert Capture really can day one start to deliver some value. The Internet of Things, because it really depends on that data collection, connectivity. So there's a little bit of mapping where you'll see more of a 90-day range to really start to even see some of the impact of the value. But over time, it extensively grows for value. As you can see, it's increasing the value proposition in relation to having those data insights. Where we see for OEMs, particularly getting that value, Paul mentioned the aftermarket sales and improving some of the service and maintenance around that. We also see that if an organization has limited OEE insights, so if they're not able to see the equipment efficiency, those data insights, actionable insights, and related to the operators, they see a reduction in performance from an operator standpoint, as well as translation to the asset, where that reduced productivity can impact with an unplanned failure or an unplanned downtime or some kind of occurrence, which for some of your end users could cost hundreds, if not millions of dollars per year. And how that relates to how you sell that equipment is that customer service. So if you're able to proactively provide those insights, leverage the data associated to the equipment to partner with your end user and develop that extensive knowledge base, then the long-term gain, Paul, would you say is correct, that the long-term gain of, you know, selling more equipment, being that number one market provider would actually grow?
Well, I think so, and you touched on a point that sticks in my memory. And one of my customers, if one of their lines goes down, it produces $187,000 in revenue per hour. So when you start to look at the downtime, or having a very simple air cylinder fail because it's exceeded its product life cycle, we need to be able to prevent those types of unexpected downtime events so that they can indeed get the most runtime out of their production equipment in a very reliable way. So to echo what you said, yes, whatever we can deploy to give us tools to get visibility into having our customers run continuously. That way, when they do schedule maintenance, it's on a planned schedule. It's not disruptive. So.
Absolutely. And then that's where it grows into advanced predictive analytics. So Rockwell has a very strong suite of analytic products, and FactoryTalk combined with ThingWorx, which is the IoT platform in our portfolio, really differentiates the OEM machine builder, because then this is where you become more prescriptive, where you can, to the point of aftermarket sales, start to predict when you need to start selling before your customer runs out of, fails a part or needs a new part. So this is where you become a sales machine and a revenue driver with this knowledge base. And that's really what I see for digital transformation with the machine builders, Paul. And this is where the value chain has really impacted, right? All these trends that we kind of opened up with is really taking from that commodity sale down to where now you're positioning a strongly equipped, data-driven solution to your customer base, and you're differentiated by providing the best equipment and service that they can find in the market. And do you see, Paul, the ability to take those data insights, and I know you're an innovator, so leverage that for new product innovation or methodology where you can actually feed back to your engineering teams?
Yeah, so what you're leading into is the full-blown digital twin element of what we have available in the tools that Rockwell provides to us. So from a 30,000-foot view, because if you dive into the details, it gets to be a long discussion. But ICH Q12 is the product lifecycle management, right? It's PLM for the product, and products, depending on what market segment you're in, might only last for 6 to 9 months, and then they have to be updated or replaced with something more modern. I can think of many different devices that have a fairly short product lifecycle. But ultimately, what digital tools we have available to us in the form of digital twins, we should be able to run simulations and help vet, especially hardware and also software, or if there's a DFX or a DFA, in other words, design for assembly, design for automation, design for manufacturability. A lot of that can get taken into consideration in the digital twin world. So.
That's a perfect segue to this slide, Paul, because this is really the way we see digital transformation, the value proposition for machine builders, the OEMs in the market, is really taking that product intelligence and optimizing your service teams, you know, how you operate from a service level. We're finding ways, for example, that our OEMs are building off of Chalk new revenue stream models for service because they're able to offer like a service level 1, which is a low touch engagement where they still get expertise guidance, but they get, you know, a monthly, you know, service plan where they can buy into having experts be able to answer real-time questions, you know, have visibility into their site through the Chalk augmented reality solution. So that's like service optimization. And then you were just touching upon product innovation, which is really taking the intel from the customer base, modifying, adjusting, and then reconfiguring to actually sell more. And this, you can see this full suite here where all the pieces kind of feed into each other. You could look at one area like with KPG, starting with remote service, right, and Chalk, and being a more digitally enabled and leveraging that for customer self-serve in ways with them, you know, actually getting visibility with Chalk. And then we see the efficiency gains from field technicians. That's a big area right now. As we know, it's very costly to find resources like very strong field technicians that are very skilled. So having solutions, technologies that digitally enable your customer base, take that intel, scale it quickly. And then you can see here on the product innovation side, those pieces that you were talking about shortly ago, Paul, where you can understand the patterns of your customer base, figure out new ways of actually reconfiguring or building out modules for your customer to have insights as a service or some kind of data as a service offering, that you're actually leveraging the capabilities of automation and digitalization and data to help your customer grow. And then the data-driven design in terms of how you're looking at innovating for the future. And all of this is a value proposition that our suite provides. At this point, I'll segue now to show you a quick video here. This is our Chalk offering.
Machine downtime is frustrating, and it really hurts productivity. When you have a problem with equipment, you want it fixed right now. Fortunately, you can get the help you need quickly and easily from Rockwell Automation Remote Support Services. All it takes is a phone call. If the problem involves a complex or unfamiliar issue, it's often more easily resolved with a remote support person actually seeing your machine. The Live View Support tool makes that possible. Using an augmented reality application with live video feed, an experienced technician can view your equipment in real time and provide specific detailed directions for repairing Allen Bradley products. 3D spatial notations can be made on the screen, so you know exactly which component of the machine needs attention. Thorough instructions can be immediately carried out, helping reduce downtime and frustration.
So that's our Chalk offering. Paul, did you want to speak to any of those pieces with Chalk? I know we touched upon it shortly ago, but I guess hearing from you would be interesting for the audience.
When I think about why we bought the licenses to Chalk, I think about the specific program that caused us to explore this product. And we expect to build about maybe somewhere between 10 and 20 of the same exact machine. It's a diagnostic. It performs a test on people's blood. So it's going to go to a variety of laboratories, and laboratories aren't particularly staffed well for automation, especially robotic automation. So what we tried to do was find a product that was in a marketplace that would enable us to remotely access the machines, as well as be able to troubleshoot, diagnose, and train and fix any of the things that are preventing the machine from running. And we felt that Chalk did a great job of hitting pretty much all of the things that we wanted to be able to accomplish remotely. That way, nobody does well when machines aren't running, right? It's when machines are running and you can be attentive. And it's that speed, again, to getting to the customer to solve a manufacturing problem or a problem with your machine. They'll remember that.
Absolutely. And also, I've worked with a lot of OEMs. It could be small or large, and they have a very difficult time tracking service calls. And they just don't have great mechanisms to collect calls or log calls properly. And there's definitely service calls that go missed. So there's lost revenues for some of their service contracts just based on lack of automated reporting or automated collection of the actual service calls, where they're leveraging Chalk to segue route all the calls because they get the admin page, which I'm going to show real quickly. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No.
This is just another video here. This is actually the billable service page in the admin. Where we see the benefits here, again, is complete transparency of how you work with your clients. So it actually will collect how many calls were placed. You can actually quickly package this out and invoice based on the reports that occurred. Give your customers ways of reviewing, the service and having effective ways of streamlining that. And this will allow an organization like KPG to really scale, where resources are really at a minimum, right? You're lean and mean right now, so that's another big area. I don't know if you want to speak to anything here, Paul.
Yeah, well, when you look at our work centers, our largest work center is after sales service. So we're staffed to not only support the legacy equipment from our previous company, but also to do work beyond that. So this is, again, where we feel that Chalk can benefit us and help us grow our business. And if you're in the OEM machine building business, after sales service, if you're not paying attention to it, you're missing an opportunity to shore up your profitability.
Yes.
Simple as that. So.
And this is just a business example. So again, this is to really help you scale with remote collaboration by giving over-the-shoulder guidance with a solution that allows you to see what your customer is seeing as an expert, give the guidance. Actually, every time you annotate with augmented reality, it takes a picture so you can download the pictures, use it for troubleshooting, use it for training, use it for basically documented to your customer that a service engagement occurred. What happens with our model, and this was the model that you bought into at KPG, a couple licenses here where you get access as 5 hosts to launch meetings. So you manage your license and get to send out meeting invites like we received today from Zoom, right? Like a number that your client would actually have access to. And it's accessible on any device. It has a smartphone, tablets, as well as some wearables where you can be agile with your customer base, and you can actually use the desktop as well. So the key value proposition from the perspective that we see is, again, reducing operational costs for service calls. We see that reduction in site visits. So this year, everybody was strained with the limited ability to be on site with customers. So Chalk really helped customers be able to give guidance without sending somebody. It's also a cost reduction for the loss of productivity of that worker out off site from KPG, for example. If you can keep your experts on site while still serving customers, you actually are more productive, which cut costs. You don't have to pay for plane tickets and all those things that go with site visits. Also, we do see a decrease in machine downtime because you can be more proactive. So a lot of times we have customers that leverage ThingWorx with Chalk, so they'll get the data insights, they'll proactively call the customer and give guidance. But even if you were just using Chalk as a one-off, you could actually start to see and work with your customer in guiding them and reducing that very expensive area of downtime. We see for training purposes, so when you bring new technicians in, use Chalk. So instead of giving that mentor one-off or one-on-one guidance, you actually use chalk. So your technician could be at a different site and give the same guidance and get that benefit from a training perspective. We see overall proficiency gains, so people learning quickly because of getting guidance with visual augmentation, so the ability to get that instructions, and then overall increasing customer satisfaction. And I always point to that the world has changed, you know, when we're at home and expecting answers right away, and we're looking on YouTube for guidance, that's what our customer is behaving. And we, you know, a solution like chalk is feeding into that changed behavior. Any other pieces, Paul, that I missed here you want to touch upon as far as like value benefits?
No, I think we're okay for the purpose of this discussion.
So now we're going to get into the digital twin, which I know in some of the aspects of expert capture, which is knowledge transfer. So getting information from key critical areas of expertise and capturing that and digitally scaling that out to the marketplace. So Paul, I know you're very passionate around these two areas, and expert capture is something that your team, when we have done some initial work, has been excited about the concept. I'll quickly explain how it works. So what the idea is that you have some individuals that are experts in a certain area, and generally, you know, they're you know, a limited resource. So what you do is you take that expert, you put a wearable on them, and they go through their area of expertise. So maybe it's assembling the machine, maybe it's fixing it. So they're going through the instructional guidance with a wearable. So they're actually doing the motions. And the solution, the software, is an app that's capturing all the video while the expert is doing every step. That app is then accessible on a desktop to quickly edit. Through the editor, you can pull in other documentation. It could be other videos. You can augment, so you can actually start creating 3D and 2D annotations or guidance, depending on the wearable, where you have a visualization aspect that's added to. So it's like a GPS capability that's giving that visual guidance overlay within the captured video. It's capturing voice, and it has multi-language support. So through the editor, you are pulling in all this amazing expertise and then quickly editing how to, you know, maintain, create, assemble, and then you publish. It's really a mechanism that can take just something that would take weeks to produce down to hours, in terms of quickly creating that content and enabling the workforce. So once it's published, it's a QR code or link that's accessible to any device. So it could be a smartphone, it could be a wearable, it could be a tablet or desktop. And it's an app that's accessible where the next user base has that firsthand expertise distributed to them. So I will get to a video here that quickly shows that. What you're seeing here is a magnet motion, and it's going through and giving guidance on how to put this together. This is actually a display at a trade show. And you can see that there is, they're seeing the actual space, and then they're seeing the annotations, and then they're getting the augmented reality showing them step-by-step guidance on how to assemble in that use case. What was interesting about that is there's really one expert that would assemble these trade show equipment, and we didn't have written instructions. Like over time we lost them. So what they found with expert capture is you could actually replace those documented manuals quickly and get that one person's expertise out to the market. So as it was shipped around, people could have the instructions on that as a real use experience. What you're seeing here now is 3D, where it's actually pulling in, to Paul's point about the digital twin and the insights, data insights from that equipment. So you're seeing an overlay here, guidance, again, instruction, but it's also creating that digital twin along with the instructional. So you're seeing actually overlays of what that equipment looks like, feels like, and it's giving data insights on how it's running, where it needs to be serviced based on the IoT being pulled through. So it's pulling in CAD files to get that 3D image, as well as pulling in instructional from the data insights from the IoT. And Paul, do you want to talk through any of this? Because I know you're passionate around digital twins and the future of that.
I go back to ICHQ12 and trying to make sure that we as a company are aligned with our customers to anticipate manufacturing changes in the future, especially in regulated environments. Once you're a supplier, it becomes very difficult to displace you as a primary supplier because you have history with the development of what the solution is.
Yeah.
Is to handle that customer's products, whatever that product might be. So as I continue to position KPG for long-term success, I want to use and leverage this digital twin idea so that as we know or can anticipate how the customer is going to change their products in the future, we can anticipate that and work on not only the hardware solution for that, but also if it changes the software as well, you should have the ability to run simulations on both hardware and software within the world of digital twins.
Yes, absolutely, and that's huge. So here's just a few examples. Let me see one more video here. Where it's showing you so this is taking that digital twin and giving that instruction. So what you're seeing is it's going through each step on assembly, and you can see that this user is looking through a tablet. So it's just accessible, even though it was captured on a wearable, it's actually accessible on a tablet or a smartphone. And this just goes to scalability and the flexibility and agility of the platform. It's agnostic to devices. So you're not required to have a wearable like HoloLens or RealWear. If you have those, you are able to leverage them. But it's just showing the robustness, which is important, Paul. I'm sure a lot of your customers would be interested to have some of this work instruction guidance, but they don't necessarily want to invest in all the hardware pieces like a wearable, and they just say, hey, we already have tablets. Could we leverage that? So that really speaks to probably the market and the flexibility. Do you see that as being important based on your customer base? Oh, I think Paul.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Grace, my internet's unstable.
Okay, no problem.
My internet's unstable at the moment, so.
Okay, we'll go to the next slide here. So what we're speaking to right here is as we looked at that journey map, and so we're now at the tier like step 3 to 4, where we're looking at collecting and integrating data sources. One huge area of expertise and benefit of Rockwell is that we enable you to look at IT and OT systems, integrate that information. So data that you would find like in an ERP, accessible to the PLCs that you invest in as well. So having insights on that and the flexibility to see anomalies and have algorithms that are tracking and collecting this information, and then making that accessible so that you can have better visibility, better actionable insights to run your business. So what you're seeing here is something called Asset Advisor, where you can pull in all the knowledge-based data sources from IT, OT systems, allowing you to have the most accessible and addressable KPIs, so critical or key performance indicators based on your operations or your end user operations, and then giving you the ability to formulate reports, dashboards, alerts that would allow you to see an anomaly. This is showing like, okay, this has seen something on a sensor that is highlighted. It's giving you access to exactly where you need to address, giving you that information so you can either call your customer, or your customer may have access depending on your model, but you might give your customer access to these reports or dashboards or alerts. They would have that information, be able to bypass unnecessary downtime, unnecessary maintenance or failure of a part or one of your systems. So Paul, I know, are you still having internet or can you talk?
It's a little sporadic, but it's gotten better in the last 30 seconds.
Okay. Well, I know that you have a realm of interest in both IoT and some of the capabilities of machine learning and other prescriptive methodologies. Is there anything you want to speak to here, or your vision for the future of machine builders in relation to these types of solutions? I think we may have lost Paul still, so no problem. If you get back on, Paul speaking, we'll let you talk. What you're seeing here is the agility of the platform. So it has out-of-box modules. Our platform is called ThingWorks. It gives you the flexibility to leverage industry modules and then quickly add, drop, and create your own dashboards, visualizations. So the real benefit is that you can wrap and extend off the systems you've already invested in. So we have a lot of customers that have invested in various IT systems like CRM or ERP systems, CMSS systems that they want to also pull in their OT, so things on the plant floor, the equipment, PLCs, other hardware investments. We have flexibility of being able to have integration to edge devices, and we have a solution called Kepler that can quickly connect and assess that data from the machines. So you're seeing here is the flexibility of somebody actually designing a new dashboard. The idea is that it's an out-of-box solution where you have modules accessible, where you can go in and then make it customized to the look, feel, and KPIs that's important to your environment. In relation to how that helps support your end customer, what we're finding is this trend where, again, your customer is demanding or asking for Industry 4.0 or these advancements of digital transformation to have these insights where they have the ability to track all at once all their equipment running, be able to bypass any issues. A lot of times, like third shift for your end customers is an area of concern because they have less people on, and if there's any issues, it does cost an organization a lot of money to repair or to replace. And so those are things that the solution will help in terms of having that data accessible, having the out-of-box functionality, and the ability for you to customize based on your customer base. What you're seeing here is just an example of what we're hearing from machine builders and their end customers is we want the ability to have a portal. So they want accessibility to the data, but they don't want to take on all the work necessarily. So your end customer wants to ensure, and you want to ensure, that the equipment is running as much as possible and that they're getting as much efficiency and performance out of the equipment. And what happens when they have the ThingWorks and your ability to create these customer portals is really a function of distributing back to them the necessary data and guidance to keep the equipment running properly. Where you can see some value proposition as a machine builder, we're seeing trends where, again, you're reimagining the way you sell. Some of our OEMs are creating functionality where they give modules as a service, so OEE as a service, where you can create OEE KPIs related to your end customer, give them dashboards, alerts, accessibility for their operators. And this will streamline their performance as well as drive more value in how you sell your equipment. Paul, I think we heard you. Are you coming back, or? I think I heard something.
Yeah, it's if I use my camera, my bandwidth gets taxed. So, but I'm hearing your audio is fine. So.
Excellent. So, is there anything where you're seeing trends around this area, like where giving that data to your end customer, finding ways like a portal, a module? Are you hearing that from end customers or out in the market?
Yeah. We've had several customers that we've worked with remote access so that we can access our equipment. And that there is a module that we add to some of our machines in order to be able to support that. And then one of the things that we think is going to be a continuing trend is more and more machines are going to end up with a cloud interface. So we see this as a revenue opportunity in a cost plus model to help our customer respond quickly to trends and or issues with the machine, depending on what we do with the data and how we manage the data.
Yes, I'm absolutely seeing that as a huge trend. And I think it's really happened over the last year where this push for this digital insight, and it's really changed the market for machine builders and OEMs to really step back and think more strategically and longer term in relation to having digital insights, having actionable data. And the nice thing about the way we help support our customer base is what we're doing is allowing for a lot of our expertise with specific, industrial settings where we've learned over the last decade of best practices around IoT. And we've built this for specifically industrial settings. The industrial Internet of Things is our ThingWorx platform with a lot of functionality and capabilities around, the settings that you live and breathe in. So you're seeing here like a portal for a customer base example where they can leverage both the IoT and augmented reality and have access to this information. What they're getting is actual guidance in relation to this magnet motion and how to service it, how to fix it, how to maintain. And so what you can imagine when you package out your equipment, the ability for you to package these digital capabilities as a add-on value proposition, replacing traditional like hard paper-based documentation or manuals that are hard to maintain, sustain. These are very flexible solutions that you can quickly edit, change, modify, and get out to the marketplace. Okay, so now we get back to kind of looking at strategy. So when we started, it was around, let's make sure that we're bringing digital transformation to machine builders, OEMs, focused on value first. And so through this, engagement today, we've really prioritized how we built out a value proposition. I would say through Paul's reinforcement as an expert out in the market, we have. This takes us back to this journey map where we're looking at how do we help you take wherever you are in your journey. So at KPG, they're probably step 2, step 3. Would you say that's true, Paul? And then how do you get your team on board? I mean, one question I have, Paul, that I get from is, Grace, how do I get my team on board with transforming? So the behavior of your control engineers now trying out augmented reality. Do you see that as something you have to address, or?
Yeah, everybody's used to doing the same thing over and over again, right? Everybody stays in their comfort zone. And what I think about when I think about using the tools that are available within the industrial Internet of Things, I think about pushing people past their comfort zones so that they can work more efficiently. And when they actually do engage with the tools and go through the training, it's like almost an epiphany, right? They're like, oh my God, I didn't realize that this stuff is out there. Well, now you do. So use the tools and become more efficient at doing your job.
So what I'm hearing is you're a great leader and you have that vision. You're giving the coaching to your team. So it's a cultural. So is your advice that you got to start at the leaders of machine builders, OEMs, to sustain digital transformation, like have that cultural adoption, that leadership to help your workers get out of their comfort zone or reinforce, these behavior change?
Well, either you're a continuous life learner or you stagnate. Yeah. So my personal feelings about that is I actually, if I'm interviewing somebody to come out of the staff, I ask them that direct question. I said, help me understand your philosophy about, are you a continuous life learner? And if so, give me an example. If they come back and they say, no, I do the same stuff over and over again, then they're probably not going to be a good fit for us here at KPG. The people that are successful that work with me are the people that want to continue to learn and embrace what is available in the marketplace today. And that is a very specific culture. You have to have that. And that's actually written into our core values of the company. And that was an employee generated document. So that's what we talked about as a group and agreed to it.
I totally agree. I mean, there is this internal fear that we all have that we have to break through. And if we help each other identify how to break through, you know, as you mentioned, the comfort zone, I always refer back to, you know, when speech recognition came to market, you know, even prior to Alexa, we were seeing, you know, some of our GPSs transform with speech, natural language processing and speech recognition. And now, you know, here we are like a decade in of having things like our GPS and our Alexas accessible where in our phones where we're getting the capabilities of speech recognition. That's always how I relate augmented reality, that at first it seems so unnatural, but it makes sense that vision or visualization is our next frontier of, you know, bringing the physical digital together and capitalizing, in this case, really looking at value capitalization from a business standpoint of how do you leverage visualization. But that brings me to the next tier, which is AI. And I get a lot of questions, Paul, and I'd like to hear your perspective around artificial intelligence and like the ethics around it. And I'll sometimes get pushback around, you know, well, do you see this replacing jobs or human ability? And so how would you address that as a leader and a change believer?
Okay. Well, there's a couple of different separate discussions there, one of which is the data that's generated from the machinery that we deliver requires specific hardware and software that we as the OEM design that configuration, but is the data for the customer to use, or is it for the OEM machine builder to use? So you have that ethical discussion of, well, who owns the data and who has a right to actually work with it? And we feel that because we've generated the infrastructure to create the data, and we have to have a cost plus business model because we're going to use some web service, we're going to do something with the data. So for us, that's kind of how we look at the opportunity to deploy digital technology is that I think the biggest thing that I think about is so many IT departments don't want their machines accessible, right? They want them locked down. They don't want them connected to any external way to get to them. And I really think that the IT groups and the OT groups need to get aligned on what the strategy is, because this trending is not going to slow down. This is, right, you know, literally, when you start to look at the return on investment, you know, this is kind of the next step for where people are going to spend time and money on getting the most out of their capital equipment, period.
How I answer the question, and you can debate me if it's the right answer or if you see a different perspective, but I always say that if you're a problem solver, like pay attention to how to solve problems, correlate and, you know, find solutions in ways that are different, because that will always be a demand in terms of the human perspective in relation to how things operate. So, you know, the capabilities of artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, all these avenues that we're building and leveraging insights, it still will rely on human engagement, analyzation, perspective, some degree. And so I always say, take into account, leverage what you can, but always be the problem solver and think about how to solve one aspect or bridge things together that are not, you know, necessarily automated. So that's the way I look at it. I don't know. Do you see similarities in your perspective of how to grow with these digital transform technologies and still be an innovator and relevant as, you know, a human in the whole picture?
Well, I would hope I would stay relevant as a human because I don't want to be digitized. But in all seriousness, one of my biggest concerns is what is the barrier of entry? You know, we all work on fairly tight margins. So this helps us as an OEM machine builder to generate revenue. But then also in the last 5 years, when you look at the cost for doing the deployment, it continues to come down.
Yeah.
And I think as more and more people get used to dealing with the tools of AI, digital twins, et cetera, the barriers and the cost of entry will continue to get lower and lower. So it'll be easier for us to make a value proposition that the customer sees and understands and says, yes, I will spend an extra 10% on the machine because I know I'm going to get a higher operating efficiency, and I know I'm not going to have any downtime because we have predictive preventative maintenance, right? So those are the key things that I look at. And I think as we get further along in our digital transformation, the barriers and the software packages and the deployments will be more succinct and concise and less ambiguous.
Yeah, reminds me, I have a lot of customers, machine builder OEMs that are saying, they have the capabilities of remote monitoring, they're starting to really, that's been in play and been a huge benefit. Where the future that they're looking towards is that prescriptive model, where now they are seeing things before just monitoring and replacing or fixing or giving guidance. They're actually going to become a prescriptive forerunner, and they do see that as where the market will shift probably the most in the next 10 years is the prescriptive nature of not just having equipment, but being able to have the foresight. And I've heard different themes that you've mentioned today, that pieces in there, but is that where do you see prescriptive in relation to where you are today and where you want to be, or where you see the market going?
I think that we'll have an adaptation increase that'll be at a fairly consistent rate, where more and more tools will become developed and available, and the cost of entry will become lower. So the adaptation over the next decade, I think, is really going to be pretty significant. That's why I chose to, at least 2016 was when I was first aware of working on the industrial Internet of Things. So this is now what, 5 years into it, and the market has changed pretty dynamically in the last 5 years. Rockwell, as a leader in control system hardware and software, continues to invest, and I think as those investments take place, new things will be discovered, new software feature benefit sets will be added, and I think, generally speaking, if we look back at a decade from now, which I hope to be retired by then, we can look back at what we've done and created and be happy with what we've given our customers as on their investment.
I love that. That's great. And I just wanted to show this. I know we're coming to the other end of the time, but I wanted to show an example of a value assessment. So as I mentioned in the beginning, my job is to team up with people like Paul. Paul and I work together and essentially look at and help frame. So Paul's at the forefront of digital transformation and kind of an innovator, but I work with all thresholds, and really what I help is bring to the customer, being the machine builder OEM, the actual insights about what the market trends are in relation to business goals. So what you're seeing here is an actual example of just looking at an augmented reality within an environment, an OEM environment, where we can look at business goals like reduce general training costs, reduce new hire training costs, reduce travel costs, reduce mean time to repair. And then what everyone's looking for is, great, how can I make more money, or drive more revenue, increase profit margins. So what you're seeing here is actually an example of, when I work with an organization like KPG, what I take into account is how they currently operate, how they currently spend, what their vision is. And we assess how the solution, in this case, it's before augmented reality, will benchmark. We leverage customer insights using the solution in similar environments and benchmark against what you can expect in your current scenario. So what you're seeing is the relevant metrics against benchmarks to actually see the benchmark data is the 47%, for example, to actually translate into value potential for your site. And so for the groups related to HESCO and Rockwell, I will do the service at no cost. So what we do is these consulting services, and I just wanted to show an example, and anyone who's interested in that as a next step. And that really takes us to our end, which I would like to personally say thank you to Paul, not only for being a fantastic customer and somebody that I constantly learn from, but just a gentleman and a great person. So thank you, Paul, and thank you, David and HESCO team. And Paul, I'll let you say your closing remarks.
Yeah, I want to thank HESCO and Rockwell for allowing me an opportunity to talk about digital transformation. Grace, obviously, you've been great to work with, and we look forward to continuing to help our customers and support our customers' business initiatives. So thank you very much.
Awesome. And thank you all, and enjoy the rest of the sunshine today. Stay out of the heat. And have a great
Go.
You can contact us on LinkedIn or, reach out, and we'll provide emails and phone numbers. If you want any more information or access to any of the slides shown today, we're happy to share that. And thank you all for the time.
Thank you, Grace.
Thanks, Grace.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome, Angela.
Have a great day.
Yeah.